guys, welcome to Irish Footy Vlogs. Today we have Rate the Transfer Rumour once again. Philip, how are you?
Good, Keith. Not too bad after yesterday's results, so can't wait for next week now.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting actual match on Friday. Where am I going? Sunday, isn't it? Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers. I think it's the final. I know a lot of people say Bows and Rovers, but ultimately I do think Dundalk and Rovers are the two best teams in the country, pound for pound, aren't they?
Yeah, look, Bows are probably just behind in terms of the top two, but I think now it's set up for a fascinating toy. Like, do you know what I mean? They'll be out for revenge, and at the end of the day, we'll be looking to put a firm statement down, do the double, and say we're here to stay. And it wasn't just we're winning the league, and then we're going to regress for a couple of years and come back. We want to kind of put a foot down and say that's it. This Shamrock Rovers side is here to stay for a good long time, like Dundalk have done recently.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 one in my view. Last week, obviously, we had Darren Markey to Sligo Rovers in the Rate Your Transfer Rumour. He's actually gone to Drogheda, interestingly enough. And then Ryan Brennan to Drogheda was one as well, and he ended up staying and signing the contract at Shelbourne. So yeah, we'll move on. Tariq Wilson from Waterford FC. Tariq Wilson from Waterford FC to Sligo. You know, most of Waterford's players are out of contract. They don't know if they're going to sign on or not. Sligo have been rumoured in the last few days to be interested. Liam Buckley is apparently interested in this one. Very good player. We have a team of the season coming out, I think, on Thursday, and there's a chance he might be in my team of the season, put it that way. How do you see this one? Do you see him on his way to Sligo?
Yeah, to be honest, anyone that's linked with Sligo at the moment that is a decent player, you wouldn't rule out, because they've got Europe now, like, do you know what I mean? So big congratulations to them as well, because obviously that's a massive thing for Sligo for a bit. I'd give it a 7, because at the end of the day, there is a big attractive point with Sligo at the moment with Gain in Europe. So I'd give that a 7, because I'd say he's looking to probably go there with the opportunity to go play in the European qualifiers. Yeah,
let's say it's nearly certain that he's going to leave Waterford, if I'm honest with you as well. So, one involved in your club now, Daniel Lafferty, obviously a former Northern Irish international and Premiership player. He's been linked. He's been let go, actually. He isn't at Shamrock Rovers now, or essentially he's not signed a contract. He's been heavily linked to his hometown club, Derry. How do you see this one?
I'd say 9. This is probably the strongest one I think we'll chat about since we've started. To be fair to Daniel, he is a great player. He was a great player in the league, but it never really worked out from at Rovers. Like, do you know what I mean? When he was over abroad, he done well and he done okay, to be fair. When he came back, I kind of thought, this is great. We're going to have a fullback for a couple of years. Like, do you know what I mean? He's probably going to be as much importance as the likes of Joey O'Brien is in this current Rovers squad, but it just kind of hasn't worked out for him. He's never kind of got a run. Do you know what I mean? But saying that, he did score some big goals for us, especially this year. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure nobody at the club would have anything bad to say about him. I can never put on a bad performance that he put. I can't turn around and say, oh yeah, he was absolutely miserable. So it is kind of an interesting one as to why we've let him go. But no, I'd say this is probably definitely going to happen. The only reason why I haven't went 10 is because, like last week, someone could end up signing somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? You never know. So yeah, no, I give him a 9, and all the best to him as well, because I thought he was a good footballer, and he done nothing but wear the shirt proudly, which is all you can ask from any player.
I think the biggest thing here is there's too many options at left wing back for Shamrock Rovers. They obviously have Cavan has come back from injury, and obviously Neil Ferrugia has played for the majority of the season, actually. Lafferty's done well when he's come in, to be fair, but you simply can't have 3 first team left backs all fit, can't you not? So it's essentially like to have those 3 is unreal in the first place when you think about it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. The 3 of them are good quality players, like, you know what I mean? So exactly. Next one up is Daniel O'Reilly. Now this is an interesting one, Big Philip, because he's left Shelbourne. It didn't really work out for him at Shelbourne. Didn't get many games. I'm not sure what happened there really, because he had a good season with Finn Harps the season before. Now, he's been linked to a return to Finn Harps or Longford Town. Which of the two would you see him more likely join? Now he's a Dublin man as well. I'll throw that in there as well. It might help sway.
I'd say Longford, just off the fact of locality, and the fact is, at the end of the day, things didn't quite work out for him at Shells, and he didn't really get much of a look in, to be honest, did he? Like, so, to be honest, I couldn't see Horgan going and looking in at a player like himself, not playing much for Shells that went down and were quite abysmal whilst doing it. Yeah, no, I'd say probably Longford, and I'd go with 7, just off the fact that someone might pop up out of blue, but I don't think that will happen. I'd say it probably will be a signing for Longford.
Yeah, and I'm after putting myself in the spot here because I think I said he's from Dublin, but I'm thinking now he could be from Kildare, funnily enough. But we'll say he's from this kind. If he's from Kildare, he won't like that. If he's from Dublin, he won't like that. So I've screwed up big time here. Yeah, but basically, regionally, you're right. He was with Finn Harps for a season, and I did do an interview with him, and he said he enjoyed his time up there, but it's very difficult to commute up there. I'd be surprised if he went back to Harps for that reason alone. So Longford could be a destination, in fairness. It's an interesting one. Next one up is Brian Murphy, Waterford goalkeeper, to St. Patrick's Athletic. Now, obviously, Pats let Brendan Clark move on to Shelbourne, which was an interesting one. Murphy, one of the best goalkeepers in the league last year, a lot of experience, very commanding. Looks like he's leaving Waterford, but you know what I mean? He's a Waterford man, but I know he's a bit annoyed at what happened there, basically. Do you see him moving to St. Pat's?
Yeah, he could. To be honest with you, he could go to a couple of places that you could turn around and say, yeah, there's no problem. That's a logical move, just of how well he played last season. It's just such a shame about that Waterford camp, though, isn't it? Like, because at the end of the day, they had such a good season, even though they didn't get to where they wanted to with Europe. They done so well. It's just a shame in terms of how
every year, then, like, isn't it? Every year, I mean, catch up with you at some point, surely.
Yeah, and like let's remind ourselves. We'll go over quickly. They did have they went through a couple of managers throughout the season as well. Do you know what I mean? It was chop and change for every couple of weeks. At one stage, you were thinking they were changing manager, and they still got really, really close. I know it was the short season and stuff, but like you can only credit them. And like it's just unfortunate they haven't got their setup sorted, because otherwise they could have probably built a good squad and challenged maybe for Europe over the coming seasons. But now going back to the transfer, I'd say that probably will go through. I'm not sure what you thought on Clark heading over to Shells. I was a bit surprised myself, to be honest with you, because I thought he'd done quite well for you.
Yeah, no, it's a strange one because I knew Stephen O'Donnell was actually trying to move him on last season. He actually nearly moved to Cork City, would you believe? So it didn't surprise me that way. He had a good season. Funnily enough, was Player of the Year this season, but at the same time, I was a little surprised with that. I'm not saying he was bad this season. I just don't think he was in the top 3 or 4 goalkeepers in the league, to be honest. Obviously, he's a bit of a cult hero at the club and that kind of thing. But surprised gone to the first division. Now that might have suited him to move to Shelbourne because he may have wanted to stay in Dublin and there were no other, options. He's not going to Rover. He's not going to Bohemians, like, you know what I mean. So that could have been the reason there. Pats fans are divided, but for me, it depends what keeper comes in. If I'm completely honest with you.
Yeah, Murphy, no, I wouldn't have disagreed with you there.
That would be a good one, to be fair. I don't think you could argue too much. But, yourself, cult heroes, it's hard for fans to get over those type of players that leave. What rating are you giving for this one, actually? I'm not sure if you gave one, did you?
I think I said 7. I think I said 7. But I'll go with 7, yeah.
7. Now, the last one as well is actually Danny Mandroiu's popped up again. And, he was linked to Shamrock Rovers strongly for a while. Now, seemingly, is linked to St. Patrick's Athletic as well, Philip. It seems to be a saga with Mandroiu in general. There's no way he's going to stay at Bohemians. People were talking about England, but the fact that he hasn't really played and that, is anyone in England going to give him an option, basically? So I think it's a case of talented player, but running out of options to move to a club. St. Pat's, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you, first off the bat, Keith, would you like a player with that temperament at your club? I know with the talent, but let's just talk about the character at the club. Like, he doesn't seem to be too interested at the minute. And like, at the end of the day, I know this sounds very, very weird, but he almost reminds me of Paolo Di Canio. I know that sounds very, very, do you know what I mean? Just in terms of his temperament. Obviously, he's not as expansive with his personality, and he's probably not as flared as Paolo, but like he can on his day, he's by far the best in the league. By far, on his best day, I think he scored some wonderful goals for Bohemians. And like at the end of the day, I just can't see the logic as to why Bowes have let him go. It's obviously something he's done or said, or I just can't get my head around that. And I think anyone if they could get him and his temperament sorted and his attitude towards his football sorted, I think he could be a smashing player for anybody. Personally, I wouldn't like him at Rovers. Personally, it's nothing to do with balls or anything like that. It's just the fact that of the type of character he is. Shamrock Rovers went for that type of player before, and it didn't work out in the first couple of years with Bradley there. So I would say Pat's would probably be in the same boat. Like, it's great to get a player of that quality in, but do you really want that sort of hassle with him? So I'd give it a 6, because he looks like he's going to move, but he could go anywhere, like, just off the fact that he hasn't been playing.
That's the issue, I suppose. When you think of the League of Ireland, I couldn't see Shamrock Rovers taking him because it could upset the apple cart a little bit there. Dundalk as well, very hard working. The other option, unfortunately, I suppose, well, from my point of view, is probably St. Pat's, because they've a well-run setup and that. But I agree with you in many ways. Absolutely brilliant player, but I mean, where was he last season? Like, he was there before lockdown and then completely dropped. And, it didn't affect Bohemians. In fact, if he played, it might have affected him more. So if Keith Long can't straighten him out, I'd be a bit concerned about that. And, you can bring a good player, but also a problematic character into your squad, but he is going to move somewhere. And that's I suppose, the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's unfortunate, because nobody likes to see that sort of thing happen to somebody. Like, do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, he's trying to have a career for himself. And like, even though he plays for Bows, I do hope he turns it around, because at the end of the day, it's talents like that in the league that
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. Like, I mean, and there's another one that probably have slipped under people's radar. Brandon Mealy, he was exceptional at Shamrock Rovers, and he's kind of disappeared. And it's just unfortunate. It's obviously other things involved, but like, if he could get back as well, do you know what I mean? But in terms of Mandroiu, like, it'd be great to see him back to his best. It'd just be great for the league in general, like, do you know what I mean? So fingers crossed he can get that sorted, and the likes of Brandon Mealy as well, and other players that have got that talent. Let's hope that they can get back to their best and get playing for top clubs in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. We'll leave it there for this week, Philip. Guys, leave down in the comments what you think, what your opinions are on these transfers or potential transfers, and we'll see you again. Thanks, Philip.